Dr. Tan, not show you.
Showing or Dr. Tan is fine. Usually I just do by showing. Dr. Tan is fine.
Make it more formal, yeah, Dr. Tan.
Thank you. One minute live. All right. Let's start. So, a very good morning to everyone here in our virtual space today. As the new normal has forced us to change, we, as humans, always find ways to adapt and try. Hence, the crux of Mite's intention on organizing this Road to Recovery webinar will be central on the theme of adapting to a new normal. At Mite, we often go one step beyond, which is not just the short-term future. People call this as probably next 2 to 3 years, but we also go on a long-term foresight. A what if and what will happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And that is exactly what we have in store for this morning's session. While the rubber industry might not be considered as one of the negatively impacted industries in this COVID-19 Black Swan event, and definitely not many will say an industry that needs to be on the road to recovery. But as the title of our webinar has hinted, this is Advancing Ahead in Recovery, the future of the rubber industry for glove and beyond. We organized this webinar to have a discussion on exploration towards the post-pandemic future. When COVID-19 has ended, we can start meeting each other physically instead of this virtual space. And then this is what we call a what's next for the rubber industry once market demand for rubber gloves in the medical sector wanes. In fact, our numbers have shown that this COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the demand for latex surgical gloves and latex medical products from 8 to 10% growth to 25 to 30% growth during the pandemic. That is an amazing growth considering for just one industry. And if anybody who is invested in rubber industry stocks, well, I'm very sure you'll be laughing all the way to the bank. So, okay. However, what will happen when the expected growth shrinks to 15 to 20% after the pandemic? While it is still a very positive growth, it is shrinking. And when it shrinks, there will be players that will be left behind. And Malaysia, who is very highly reliant on exporting rubber products, what will happen to us? So what's next for the rubber sector and how can we ensure its resiliency to survive a post-pandemic future? Therefore, to understand the rubber stakeholders' perspective and motivation on the future of the rubber industry, understand current initiatives and also future initiatives towards diversification and upgrading to high value added and high technology products, especially in terms of the supply towards engineering, construction, and marine applications. And we also wanted to understand what are the strategies of the Malaysian Rubber Board and the Malaysian Rubber Council to enhance its market intelligence and outreach, not just domestically, but internationally, beyond the glove segment, as currently the industry and the general rubber products are very much driven by the domestic market only. Today, we have with us on our panelists, Dr. Zainur Rossi, the the Director General of the Malaysian Rubber Board. The first thing that crossed my mind when I read his CV was he is the youngest person to helm the Malaysian Rubber Board in 2017. What an interesting and fresh blood that we could bring in forward, and his diverse background in rubber research, holding a PhD in chemical engineering from Waterloo University, Canada, publishing over 80 scientific papers, and holding 10 patents and trademarks. Not only that, when you're looking at something in R&D, he has won over 20 awards for his work in just research and development. Definitely, with his vast experience and great leadership, I'm looking forward to the inputs by Dr. Zainur Rossi for today's webinar. Secondly, we also have Mr. Nurul Islam, the CEO of Malaysia Rubber Council. Also another very young blood, and therefore we are very young participants today, I think. And while he has told me that he is not a very wide expert in terms of rubber yet, but I'm very sure he's being very humble and definitely have a lot of points to add to us today. He has a vast background ranging from transport to properties to even the rubber industry. So therefore, I look forward to what he has to say to us today and further inputs in what the rubber industry will be moving forward. Without further ado, let me first ask our panelists to actually introduce themselves and also the role of their organizations in this rubber industry ecosystem. So, Dr. Zainur Rossi, if you don't mind.
Start with me?
Yeah, Dr. Zainur Sani. Go ahead, Dr. Zainur Sani.
Thank you, Dr. Tan, and thank you to Mike for having us, MRB, on the panel today. This is certainly our pleasure to participate in discussion on the future of rubber industry. So I've been requested to introduce myself. I think Dr. Tan has read or briefly introduced myself. My name is Zainur Sani bin Muhammad Noor. I'm a chemical engineer by training. Yeah. I joined RI in late 1993, so now I have served more than 25 years in MRB. So with that little experience, I'm now leading the agency, MRB as the custodian of rubber industry. We are the overall central agency responsible for ensuring the growth of rubber industry. So we work with various other related agencies, particularly with Malaysian Rubber Council for the promotion, and with other implementing agencies, for example, WISTA, FALS, and with other ministries. So our role is to develop policies, but our core functions is still R&D. So we have in our act, we have about 14 official functions. So out of that, 7 is related to R&D. So we are still R&D based industry. Part of our activities is also related to the regulatory aspect of rubber industry. So we issue licenses, we also do enforcement activities, to ensure the orderly growth of the rubber industry, as well as the other core functions of MRB is to provide technical service and consultancy to the industry, to all sectors of the rubber industry. So when we talk about rubber industry, we normally categorize the rubber industry into 3 main sectors. The upstream sectors, which involve the plantation. So this is the industry that involve more than 400,000 smallholders. And after that, we move on to the what called the midstream or processing sector. So this is where we take the raw material and process it into various what we call technically specified rubber. One of the most flagship product is what we call the standard Malaysian rubber. So this is one of our leading product for the technically specified rubber, and also has been the benchmark for the world rubber industry. And finally, we move on to the downstream. This is what we call the product manufacturing. So we take all the raw material from the processes sector and we turn it into various rubber products. So when you talk about rubber product, we normally categorize into 2 main sectors. The first one is the latex-based sector. So this is all product made from natural latex in the liquid form. So this is where we produce gloves and also other latex-based products, for example, condoms, latex straps, and various other products. Yeah? And the second sector is the dry rubber sector. So this is where we take the dry rubber raw material in the form of solid rubber, and we turn it into various products. So the main product from the dry rubber sector is tire. Yeah. So more than 75% of the rubber produced worldwide is used for tire. So rubber industry is very synonymous to the transport sector, tire sector. So this is the overall scope of MRV. And then the role of MRV is to ensure competitiveness of Malaysian rubber industry in particular. But in essence, what we also do is to look at the long-term industry development by developing strategies, yeah, to ensure the growth of rubber industry. Okay, so I think that's all for the brief introduction. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I thought that was very interesting considering, yes, while we at MITE, because our interest in the new industrial master plan is the rubber industry, particularly on the midstream and downstream. So we'll definitely be tapping back on you with that. And I have a burning question regarding tires and how 75%, that's an amazing number just for automotive, and the number of cars that's increasing. I will definitely be getting back with you with that question. So before I get to that, so Encik Nurul, if you don't mind, would you like to introduce yourself and also what your organization plays its role in the rubber industry ecosystem? Thank you, Dato'.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good morning, Dr. Tan. Thank you very much, and also to Dato' Zarusani, my fellow panel for today's webinar. First of all, thank you to Mike for having me and my MRC here today to participate as one of the panelists for this webinar. And to introduce myself, my previous experience mostly in engineering and also manufacturing sector before I joined research sector, research institute in Terengganu. And recently I joined Malaysia Rubber Council. I think last month, 15 March, I started in MRC 15 March, and I'm still new. But before that, I also I started in as a LGM board member in 2020. So basically, MRC was incorporated in 2000. Under the Ministry of Plantation Industries and Commodities, with the task to undertake market promotion for quality Malaysian rubber products in the world market, and as well as to support the SMEs through domestic promotion efforts. MRC has 338 members, companies manufacturing rubber products, which are categorized into latex, tire and inner tubes, industrial rubber goods, and general rubber goods, and also footwear. Latex goods, which are mainly rubber gloves, are the main rubber exports. It's making up around 94% of the country's rubber product export for the first 2 months of the year. MRC, when was first incorporated in Malaysia, it was as a leading exporter of quality and sustainably produced rubber products to put Malaysia in the position as a leading exporter of quality and sustainably rubber products. In the more recent period, the need to ensure the industry continue resilience and sustainability to address the gap in the rubber sector ecosystem and supply chain, linking the downstream sector with the midstream and as well as the upstream. That is the focus of MRC recently. So against this backdrop, MRC recently underwent a rebranding exercise in September 2020, and Dato' Zarusani was part of our board of trustees into this rebranding exercise, so that MRC can expand our role into enhancing and promoting the domestic market and the upstream and midstream sectors. Utilizing our expertise and knowledge of the commercial rubber industries and also export marketing. To the redefined role of MRC, currently focusing on the strategic pillars such as market exploration, building trust, nurturing global brands, talent enrichment, and the most important part is SME capacity development. Thank you, Dr. Tan.
Thank you, Mr. Nurul, for a great explanation. I like the fact that, I thought this was interesting about the rebranding and how Datuk Zairosani is actually on your board of trustees. And that close relationship between MRB and MRC and how you complement each other, that will be something that I would love to explore further, and how you're I would say, tackle the domestic and international market together. So if you don't mind just explaining further on how does actually MRB and MRC complement each other in that role. Encik Nurul, I'll let you discuss this first, and then I'll go back to Datuk Zairosani on this.
In terms of MRB and MRC, we are more focused on marketing aspect, where MRB are more focused on the research part. However, there are some R&D activities that we collaborate with the industries, and also we have some fundings which we provide to the research, research community, the local universities, the research companies, and so on. We have our ILF, Industrial Linkage Fund, which is we have RM 3 million ringgit, which is offered to the research communities for them to collaborate with our industries, to look into the gap in the industries which we can improve, so that we can improve the productivity of the rubber. So I think Datuk Zairosani is also sitting in our research committee and been advising us a lot in this aspect, so that we can focus on the real needed research to improve the industry, especially the rubber industry.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nurul. Datuk Zairosani, let me get back to you on this. You look into research, and as a researcher myself, that is something that's very interesting, because we feel that research will always pave the way for what's next in any industry, regardless if it's rubber or automotive or anything. So can I actually just ask, what is MRB's current interest in research, and what are the areas that you're looking into for the rubber industry for MRB? Thank you.
All right, thank you. So maybe to put things into perspective, maybe I should explain the history of rubber industry. And then it's easier for us to explain our direction. So the rubber industry has more than 100 years experience. Yeah? So looking at the first rubber plantation in Malaysia called Kansa. Yeah? So if you calculate from that period until today, we have more than 140 years of experience. But the commercial, I would say commercial period of rubber industry in Malaysia has been here more than 100 years. So rubber industry is considered as one of the mature industry in Malaysia. So we have been through the various progress of the cycle of rubber industry. So starting with being a rubber producer, yeah? In before First World War, Second World War, and up to in the 70s. Malaysia is the largest rubber producer, and we hold that position until 1982. It was taken over by other countries, for example, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. So we started as the raw rubber producer, yeah, a commodity producer, and then after that we progressed to the processing sector, where we become the world leader in rubber processing, producing technically specified rubber, the SMR, the latex concentrate. right? And now also that position is taken over now because from the fact that we have limited resources. For example, in Malaysia, we only have 1 million hectares of rubber plantation. And other countries, for example, now the top producing country, Thailand, they have almost 6 million hectares of land. So in terms of volume, yes, of course, we are no longer the leading, but what we are trying to position ourselves, is in terms of the value. So although we have 1 million hectare, but in terms of technology, for example, productivity or yield, we want to be the leading, or for example, in upstream sector in terms of the yield. And subsequent to that, once we have the leading yield or maximum productivity for our rubber, we want to see what is the best value to turn our raw rubber into what we call this processed rubber. So we are thinking of beyond standard Malaysian rubber now, looking into specialty rubber or how to value add to this. And not only that, now we are looking also to the latex component. Public is only aware of the rubber components. When you tap rubber tree, the latex only contains about 30% of rubber. So that 70% under non-rubber component is what we are exploring now. How we can create value and products from this. So with this, we have full utilization of the latex component, both rubber and also the non-rubber. But of course, the rubber is still our main focus. The non-rubber will be our new income generation source of new products. And then we move on to the product sector. I would say that our product sector has been really growing since 1970s. Especially the glove started in late 70s, but it's really pick up, growth of various downstream sectors in the mid 80s and early 90s. So we continue on from that period. So we, as you can see here, this is what we call the natural progression. But more important for us is that we realize that the limited resources in Malaysia, and then the emerging countries, the competition from low-cost producing countries, and then how do we position ourselves? Malaysia has always been the what we call the producer of quality raw material, producer of quality rubber. So until today, although we are number 7, but our rubber is still being sought after as the premium rubber. So this is what we are trying to maintain. So this is on the technology and also the quality. Right, and then on the downstream sector, we see now our downstream sector is dominated by the latex-based sector. But in actual fact, if we look at the overall global market value of rubber product, 90% is from the dry rubber. Right, so our current, I would say, export contribution from the latex-based sector is more than 80%. But only about 10 to 15% from dry rubber sector. So this is where strategically we are looking at expanding the dry rubber sector, because the 90% value is very small on our part. Even if we can capture about 5 to 10% of the dry rubber sector, the impact on our global contribution and also our export will be double than what we have now. Okay, but at the same time, we want to maintain our strength, which is the latex. So this is where we see that the model that we are positioning our industry from being quality producer of raw rubber and quality rubber products. So what is next for us to sustain our competitiveness? So we now the trend now is moving towards technological based products, knowledge based, as well as now the latest trend is on sustainability and also green manufacturing. So our immediate aim is to how to build on our expertise, our strength in quality manufacturing, technological advancement, to go into these new areas. For example, to capture the strength in green manufacturing, also in sustainable production, to ensure that we can still maintain our competitiveness for the next 10 or 20 years. So these are the areas that we are looking at, how to use technology to enhance our value. So we are looking at value enhancements now. So for example, in glove, so one of the research areas is to look at into what we call the advancement of materials for gloves. So from the latex that we have now, what can we do to further enhance creating new latex materials? So by creating new latex materials, also new manufacturing, we'll be able to expand, create new rubber products and new gloves, to expand the value in the glove sector. So we are also doing the same thing for the dry rubber sector. So we have the strength of R&D. The ecosystem is there in place for us. So how do we capitalize on our technology? So we are looking at various sectors of dry rubber sectors. For example, the industrial rubber goods, where we can use a lot of our technological strength, yeah, to produce high value added, and then where we are given competitive advantage in terms of niche. To go into what we call the general rubber products, for your information, according to the literature or in the market now, we have more than 10,000 different types of rubber products. Yeah. So the product is very diversified. Yeah? So it's just that for us now is to really focus product sectors that we can explore and enhance our competitiveness. Yeah? And at the same time, use our strengths in terms of R&D, raw material, quality raw material, and also the ecosystem that we have. So
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a really good summary in terms of, you know, what's next and what is MRB actually moving forward in the strategy of diversifying our rubber products. On my side, I'm very sure many of the participants that we have today will actually feel very comforted to know that, you know, the Malaysian rubber industry is not just about exporting raw rubber, raw latex, you know, things like this. That is very comforting to hear indeed. I'm sorry to cut you off short just now, but would you like to continue anything further? Because I thought that I heard a lot of interesting things that I would love to tap on actually. So one of them is actually the fact that when you said, you know, in 1992 we lost our top rubber production status to Thailand, but at the same time you said that we actually moved to a higher value added chain, which was becoming a world leader in rubber producing. And to us, that's always a good thing because you are moving up the value chain in that sense. And I hear from you also saying that, you know, we're moving towards specialty rubber, moving more towards value added. And this is very much in line with the trends of the industry moving towards higher economic complexity. You know, the Harvard Economic Index, they were saying that Malaysia, we need to be more complex in terms of what we produce. You know, we can produce 10,000 rubber products, but if everybody else is also producing that same 10,000, then we have a very humongous competitor in that sense. But I'm very sure MRB is doing a great job in that. I will get back to you on this. I would love to hear actually from Encik Nurul, with MRB moving forward in terms of the next phase of rubber products. How is MRC moving towards the marketing of these rubber products?
All right, thank you, Dr. Tan. In line with our expanded role, we are focusing, we are giving an increased focus on building up the local SME capacity and capability. You know, through one of our program, which is the Pathfinder program. This program, we will identify SME companies, especially from the dry rubber sector, that will be nurtured towards exploring the international markets, where currently they are only focusing on the domestic markets. Under this program, there are 4 key areas which we are going to focus, namely the funding and grant, technical support, training and development, export marketing, and the most important aspect is the branding of the products. This program can be also tailored to the needs and potential of the selected companies. Apart from that, MRC also focus on creating value to the industry, you know, through our development and new enhanced downstream products, as well as the upstream and also midstream equipment and also technologies. This is undertaken via collaboration, as I mentioned to you just now, with the local universities and also research institutions under our 3 million industrial linkage fund, which are available currently. We are also coming up with another program, a new program, which is the 3+1I fund, which is the 3+1I. The I, it stands for ideas, innovations, and invention, and the plus is the investment, to to, among others, to diversify the industry offerings to the global market. With this funding, we hope the research institutes, the research organization could take part in, coming up with new products and also new technology for the industry players to improve their productivity. And the last one is, in order for the industry to move up the global value chain, rubber companies, must explore the way for their products to be associated with bigger costs and purpose, and ultimately gain international recognition. For instance, our new program, the International Development Organization's IDO's Partnership Program, which will enable them, to participate in programs offered by these IDOs, which eventually will enable them to raise their competency to reach for larger untapped markets, and as well as to contribute to the global well-being. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's very interesting is about international recognition. Dato' Zairul Sani, you also mentioned about Malaysian rubber products being sought after, even though we're not the top producers, especially in terms of acreage. But that international recognition is very important moving forward. I mean, we can be producing a lot, but if we're not the best, then there's no point also. And also the other thing that Mr. Nurul Islam, you mentioned is international recognition in terms of our programs and also our talents, is it?
Yep.
So let me go back to Dato' Zairul Sani on this. In terms of natural rubber quality, when you're talking about our competitors from Indonesia and Thailand, how does Malaysia's rubber quality actually stack up on that?
Okay, all right. So in Malaysia, we are very fortunate because when we started the rubber industry, we have the right, what we call the national framework for the rubber industry. We have the MRP, being responsible for the overall. And then from this, the structural framework of the industry. We have the research, we have various implementing agencies, as well as the promotion. And then in addition to that, we also have in place a funding mechanism. So we always have a consistent program to support the rubber industry. So for example, in terms of quality, if we begin with the processing sector, the SMR, and also the upstream sector. So currently, I can say that we have one of the highest rating globally to produce rubber. So we have been the leader in the rubber breeding program. So we are still there. But looking at the production, so there are various factors affecting our production. Although we have the best loan, but the other factors that are affecting our production, for example, the labor shortage, and then the cost of production. So this has really affected the upstream sector in terms of production. But looking at the midstream sector, where we have the SMR. So SMR is, I would say that it's one of our flagship product because we have what we call the best system for it. So this system cannot be duplicated by other rubber producing country because we have MRP controlling all aspect of rubber production for SMR, from the quality, production side, raw material. So that is why we have a good support. Even for SMR, we have what we call the Malaysian Rubber Exchange to take care of the trade issues. So, the support system, the ecosystem for SMR, for rubber processing in Malaysia is one of the best, and we are still maintaining. So this is why, although our production has dropped, but in terms of our quality, consistency is one of the best. But our challenge now is how we maintain that, right? With all the competition from other countries, because other countries will be catching up. So we must be 1 or 2 steps ahead of them in terms of technology. So that's why our research now is looking at how we can further enhance the quality of rubber. So we are not looking at the generic rubber now. We're looking at what we call customized rubber product or raw rubber. So if a manufacturer would like to have certain properties, we'll be able to tailor make. So this is where we call customized rubber product and raw rubber. So this is our aim is to ensure that we can diversify, we have to exit the commodity realm, yeah. So to go into specialty and also value-added raw rubber. Okay, so we are the leader in terms of not only in terms of the research, but internationally, we are also having certain leadership. I don't mind saying to you that, for example, Malaysia now is also a leader in the international standards development. Malaysia is currently the chair of the ISO TC45. This ISO TC45 Standing Committee is the international ISO committee responsible for developing standards, yeah, for rubber and rubber products. So we have a strong presence there. Even for our glove, yeah, we have a strong, significant role there to ensure that the standards development is represented by Malaysian. In fact, we have the current chair, yeah, is from our glove industry. So we take care from the standards aspect. So this is where we ensure that our international presence and also leadership is supported. Yeah. Okay. On the ground in Malaysia, we implement all the what we call the quality system management. So, for example, for our glove, yeah, we have what we call the standard machine glove, the certification system. So this has been one of the key leading factor to ensure that whatever we produce in Malaysia for our glove, especially, is complying with the superior quality. So Malaysia is known because of the standard machine glove. So we have in place that standard machine glove. So we are looking towards expanding this into other products. Yeah, for example, into other latex product, catheters, glove, various type of glove. Yeah. So if we get more certifications, so we can ensure whatever we produce is at international standards. In addition to that, yeah, how do we maintain our high quality and also leadership? We also provide what we call the testing services. So for your information, we have what we call the Global Testing Center in Malaysia. So this has been very important and also significant to assist all our manufacturers able to comply with all international standards in terms of the technical requirements for export. Yeah? So by having this facility, we ensure that we assist our manufacturers to become global player, to ensure that they're able to penetrate significant or important market. So if there's any technical barrier, we'll be able to assist them, yeah, in terms of standards development, testing, and as well as the specifications development. So this is the role of MRB currently, working with MRC now. With all these specification standards, we would like to package them. So by packaging this as a country-wide promotion for Malaysia. So what we want to go out there, whenever someone or any part of the world buy rubber, rubber product from Malaysia, they can be assured of the quality, because we support from the production, from testing, research, until the promotion. Yeah. So the promotion is looking at not only at the individual manufacturers, but we are looking at the Malaysian national brand. So what we say that when you talk about Malaysian, it's also synonymous to the high quality rubber product. So this is our key. But in the future, what we want to see is that is extended to whenever we talk about Malaysian rubber product, it's not only quality, but it's also sustainable. Yes. So that would be our key advantage.
You know, as a Malaysian, Dato, I listen to you and I'm so proud. I'm not a rubber expert by any means. I have no dealings with the rubber industry mostly, except for this, our efforts in a new industrial master plan for MITI. But this is very interesting because, you know, some of the comments that we have gotten from our YouTube live channel from Salihin Marlizan, she or he says rubber rocks. You know, when you hear things like what you've mentioned from Dr. Zairosani saying that, you know, our Malaysian rubber is about quality, and we're also moving towards sustainability next. So definitely such comments is so correct. So I have a question for Encik Nurul Islam. You have over 338 member companies, right? There's mostly from the industry. And when we're talking about this diversification and specialization of these customized rubber products, how are your members actually moving towards that? I would love to hear your views on this.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. Currently, even though we have 338 companies registered with us, but the rubber boys are doing very well currently, but not the dry rubber sector. And in terms of dry rubber sector, there are decline in export of their products recently. So as recently was announced by our Minister Datuk Dr. Khairuddin, where we are currently focusing on the tire, to revive the tire industry. For your information, currently we have 4 local manufacturers, which is mostly owned by foreign companies. None of them are locally owned. And also for your information, there are our raw rubber products, as mentioned by Datuk Zairosani. Our high quality raw rubber products is exported to overseas market in form of raw materials. So our focus now is to create value to the raw materials. We need to have more industries that can, increase the usage of our natural rubber locally. So what we are doing now is, as I said, we are focusing on creating more industries in Malaysia. We are creating more industries in the effort of increasing the usage of local natural rubber. To do that, we are focusing in more R&D efforts, and also the most important aspect is the commercialization of the research. I believe MRB, as mentioned by Dr. Zairosani, we have a lot of research, quality research. So to move forward, we wanted to be part of this commercialization effort of these researchers, and also from our existing programs such as the Industrial Linkage Fund, our new program 3+1I. We will have a lot of research, quality research also. So what we are looking is to commercialize these researches. So to do that, Dr. Tan, we are setting up a new unit, which is a commercialization unit that will focus on this commercialization effort. Apart from that, we also noticed that a shift from the industry to move forward towards the industrial IR 4.0 with the hope to reduce dependency on labor and to automate the process in the industry. We encourage the companies to embrace IR 4.0 via our Fund for Automation and Green Technology, FAGT. This fund aims to shift the industry towards greater automation, increase the application and the usage of renewable energy resources such as solar, biomass, and water treatment. For this fund, the FAGT fund, we provide 20 million for the industry, to participate and improve their production system. You see, everywhere in our rubber industry, whether it is downstream, the midstream, the upstream, the common problem is labor shortage. You see, in the upstream, we have untapped rubber plantation due to not enough workers. We have midstream and also downstream industries, which also facing the shortage of workers. So the way forward, Dr. Tan, is by looking into automation and mechanization. So for that, MRC, we have this 20 million FAGT fund for the industry to come up with any automation effort or the usage of green technology, which this fund is a matching grant where we contribute half of the automation process and they will contribute half of the automation process. And as for today, we have more than 15 projects ongoing and 3 completed, successfully completed projects. And the amount of cost reduction by this program is, it's very high. And we are happy to see that the industry is benefiting from this FEGT program. Thank you, Dr. Tan.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for bringing up labor shortage issues. I think Dato also mentioned labor shortage. And moving towards automation is definitely one of those ways to overcome this labor shortage. And this seems to be a common problem in all resource-based, especially the plantation-based industries, not just rubber, but also palm oil-based. But I would like to ask, actually, when you're talking about automation in terms of not just production, but also in terms of the upstream of the rubber tapping and also the collection and things like this, how different is our rubber tapping activities now compared to those in 1970s when our forefathers were actually just using a sickle, going out early in the morning to collect rubber? How automated is it now? Encik Nurul, if you don't mind, I would love to have your point from your members first, and then of course I'll go back to MRB and ask Dato on how MRB has actually developed any new techniques in this.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. I think Dr. Zairosani in the good position to answer this question. But however, my opinion on current practice in the upstream industries, they are still using the conventional method of tapping the rubber every day. So what we need to do is we need to focus on automation and mechanization in that aspect. You see, last time the rubber tapper go out at 3 a.m., 5 a.m., and our forefathers are doing that for years. They go and collect the latex on the same day so that they can get more income in selling the latex. But nowadays, the rubber tappers, they are older generation, and they are not. They don't have the energy to go twice per day and collect the latex. So they end up focusing on the kaplang. So, but if we look at the industry, the downstream industry, the demand is in the latex industry. You see, 90%, 94% of the production, the rubber export is latex products. So the rubber glove, the condoms. So this is our main focus. So I think we have discussed a lot, Dato' Zairosani, in terms of how to increase or to change back the mindset of our rubber tappers by introducing a lot of programs so that they can go back to the latex production. Apart from that, Dr. Tan, we are also focusing on, together with MRB, to increase the value to the rubber tappers. One of our program that we are jointly organizing with MRB is the creep rubber processing machine, which is MRC provide 6 million funding, and the program is under the joint task force chaired by Dato' Zairosani, and I'm one of the member, which we will provide one of the process that currently being done in the midstream to this creep rubber processing, which will be under the cooperation set up by the rubber tappers themselves. So by doing this, they get extra value and extra income. So the price of kaplam purchased by this cooperasi will be slightly higher, and they will get extra income there. And then from the profit of the cooperation will be given back to the industry, to the rubber tappers themselves. And also another funding that we provide is the Malaysian, in order to reduce the dependency to foreign workers. We come up with one funding, which is Malaysian worker funding, which we provide around 6 million for this funding, so that the industry, especially the upstream and also the midstream, they can hire Malaysian worker, and we will top up the salary for the Malaysian worker in order for us to reduce the dependency and also to create more jobs for Malaysian in the rubber industry. And the first round of this funding, we already received the claims from the industries, and we, from the 10,000 target that we have for this program, we already managed to fill up to 5,000 position, and hopefully if this funding are fully used, we can come up with more funding so that more jobs will be created for Malaysian locally, and also as well as to extend these programs towards the upstream industry, so that we can hire more rubber tappers in the upstream industry to assist this older generation to create more value to the rubber production. Currently, for the information, more than 500,000 hectare of rubber plantation is abandoned, not tapped in the market. So it is a waste to the country's rubber production. So we are also looking into that, and how the cooperation set up by the rubber tappers can do something to maybe take over this rubber plantation which is abandoned. That is what we will discuss with MRB, especially Dato' Zairus, to look into that aspect. Thank you very much, Dr. Tan.
Thank you, Encik Nurul. I think as a person that's concerned about the industry or interested in industry, definitely it's very comforting to know that there are so much funding and also incentives and programs and support system. People often forget about the support system that's needed in each industry, and when MRC plays its role as a support system, that is definitely something that's very good and very, especially for the progress of the rubber industry. Dato', if you don't mind, let me go back to you and ask the same question back, which is, how different has rubber industry or rubber tapping evolved from the 1970s? Or because you said it yourself, this is a 100-year-old industry. So let's hear from you.
Yeah, to answer that question, we have to look at into specific sector. We have to deep dive. Yeah, so the answer will be different for each specific sector. So maybe we start from the downstream. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we have more than 10,000 different types of products. So if looking at automation, it really depends on the specific manufacturers to look into ways to automate their production. So MRB role is to introduce the relevant technologies and to assist them to come up with the level of automation. So we facilitate, we enable them to reach the appropriate technology. But it really depends on the individual manufacturers. For example, if you look at the glove industry specific, they have achieved a lot in terms of automation. Yeah, for example, we know when the rubber gloves industry started to produce, for example, 1 million pieces of glove, they require more than 30 workers, but now it's down to 1.5. So they have automated as much as possible, but their level or there are certain steps that are still difficult to automate. So I would say that they are about 90% automated. Yeah. So in terms of productivity, we have one of the highest. Yeah. So increasing from about 3,000 pieces per hour, now we can achieve up to 50,000 for the natural. So you can see in terms of improvement of productivity on automation, and we see that even with this kind of automation, the glove sector is still complaining about shortage of labor. Yeah, currently they need about 25,000 additional workers, and with the MCOs, they have limitation to get foreign laborers. So what we are trying to do that now, we have looked into ways to attract our locals. Why our locals are not willing to work into various sectors of rubber industry. As you know, rubber industry has been labeled as the 3D industry. Yeah, even to the extent of glove is also labeled as 3D. We are working with the industry association now to attract more local with MRC. So what we are looking at to provide a training program for our local. Yeah? So when our local get into, for example, glove industry, so when they come in, they already have certain skills. Yeah. So when considered as the production level employees, they will have a better level in terms of skills and also experience. So this is where we are working now with MAGMA, Malaysian Rubber Glove Manufacturers Association, to develop our local. So we are giving them training. So when they come into the sector, they will be given advantage as compared to the foreigners. So in this way, we hope that we can attract more local to be involved. And with the incentives from MRC, I think that will assist us. Yeah, but even that, we still have to look at the requirements of automation. So I would say that for the glove industry, in addition to manufacturing automation, they have to look at into the post-production. For example, in terms of waste, the assistance of MRC is important, where they provide, for example, incentive competitive. So this is where the assistance of MRC is important, where they provide, for example, incentive for the green technology, and also automation. So I chair that committee, and we see a lot of take-up from industry. So this is where we will gain more competitiveness. Yeah, when we go for most of the green technology, there's some form of automation introduced. Yeah. Okay. For the process sector, it's the same thing. So they have gone through from the labor intensive into what we call the more or less very optimized processing. But still, some areas still require labor. So what we are trying to do now is to get more participation from the local to take up all stuff. So this is where the training program, human resource development, is one of the ways to attract local. Yeah, because for local, we have to give them more than what we give for the foreign workers, but in terms of training and also the salary. Okay, but our main issues now is on the upstream sector. Yeah, so this is a totally different ballgame. Yeah, because we are dealing with smallholders. Yeah, 95% of rubber is produced by smallholders. As compared to the downstream, they are manufacturers, companies. So it's easier for us to implement automation. So with this, we have to work carefully, closely with the implementing agency, especially RISTA, right? So people always say that rubber industry is sunset industry because they are looking from the upstream sector, right? Okay, as I mentioned earlier, although we are no longer the major producer, but in terms of technology, for example, our clone and our typing, we are still considered one of the leading. So as mentioned by General just now, there are a lot of areas untapped. Okay, this is because of the situation of our smallholders. Our smallholders is one of the most price sensitive group among the rubber producing countries. The reason is that because our social economic standing, our smallholders, I would say that they are not like smallholders in other countries where they only depend on rubber. Yeah, but some of them they are owners of rubber plantation. Yeah, of course some of them are tappers, but they have other opportunities. So what happens is that when the rubber price is low, so they opt for other options, go for other activities that can give them more income, right? So this is where it's important for us to introduce automation. So we reduce the labor and make sure that we are still competitive. There's no doubt, as compared to other natural rubber producing countries, for example, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia has the highest cost of production. Yeah. So the only way for us to reduce that cost is to go into automation. But when we deal with smallholders, it's different approach. Okay. So automation has always been our research focus. So since in the early 80s, we produced what we call the first in the world automatic typing knife. And after that, we worked continuously into automation, and we developed several models for the fully automatic rubber typing system. So even in the last 2 years, during the RNK11, we still do what we call extensive development of fully automated. So we have what we call the latest development is called ARTS, automated rubber typing system. And then we have, in fact, 7th generation of ARTS, where you do full automation of rubber typing. But the problem is that because the technology and when you have a technology to go into commercialization, it's not about technology. There are various other factors that influence commercialization. So, for example, now although we have one of the workable, or fully automated typing system, but because of the rubber price, the capability of smallholders, it's difficult for us to transfer the technology to them. So, for example, now even with the ARTS I mentioned earlier, the production cost for us is about 2,000. So this is at the pilot scale. So even if you go to full commercial, you can probably bring that down to about 700 or 1,000. So for smallholders, to have 1 hectare of this machine, so in 1 hectare you have about 400 rubber trees. So you multiply by 1,000. So it's very difficult for smallholders to invest. And plus with the low rubber price, at this point, it's very difficult. So we have different approaches now. So we are also looking into what we call the new generation of automatic typing knife. So the automatic typing machine is 1 machine per tree. But the automatic typing knife or the mechanical typing knife is 1 knife, but you can use it just like the traditional typing knife. You can use it for various other trees. So this is our aim now, is to make sure that we promote this as compared to the fully automated. So we go for a mechanized typing knife. But even with mechanized typing knife, so if we, let's say, for example, if we are able to bring it down, the cost as low as 700 ringgit. For smallholders to invest 700 ringgit is still quite difficult for them. Not to mention about the cost of maintenance and the rest. So this is the issues that we are looking at. Not only the technological issues, but the acceptability of the technology by the smallholders or stakeholders. So that's why, in addition to that, we have what we call the semi-automatic approach. We introduced what we call the low-intensity rubber typing system, LITS. So with the stimulation system, what you have to do is that you don't have to tap your rubber tree every other day or every 3 days. You can only tap you need only to tap your rubber tree for example, maybe every 6 days. So you reduce the labors by 50%. Even that, it also depends on the rubber price. So because our smallholders have a lot of options. So we are not like in the 70s or 80s, because smallholders only depends on rubber, but now they have options. So that's why now our approach has to be different. We have to maximize the value to smallholders. The most important thing is the income to smallholders, right? So now with the low rubber price, our intention is to get them to optimize their production. So that's why government now is assisting in terms of the production incentive. So although the rubber price is low, the smallholders is assisted to make sure that they have minimum price for rubber. So this to ensure that they continue tapping, as well as we are looking at the supply chain optimization now. As you know, smallholders, because they are at the end of the supply chain, or at the beginning, they receive very little. So this is where we're looking at the clustering of smallholders, working with cooperatives, rubber cooperatives, so that they can introduce some sort of vertical integration. So the raw rubber that they have, they will collect and do some processing, and they will sell directly to manufacturers or to the processors. So in that sense, we'll be able to maximize the income to smallholders. And we are now also looking at the land optimization. So rubber, mentions rubber now, our approach is to make sure that they do some sort of integration, with cash crops, so that when the rubber price is low, they can depend on other sources of income, and also to maximize the income to smallholders. So I would like to also inform you now, we are trying very seriously to improve the rubber supply chain, because this is where the sustainability comes in, right? So the traceability issue, the labor issue, the biodiversity, is all depends on the rubber supply chain. So we introduced a technology called system called RIM Niaga. So in our industry now, starting this year, all rubber transaction by smallholders up to the factories are all done online. So there's no more manual receipts. So it's all done automatically online. So in this way, we'll be able to monitor production by smallholders. Not only that, we'll be able to measure the productivity real time.
Process into automated process. And another two is the glove industry, where they are from conventional energy usage, they change to solar panel, which has reduction in terms of cost, which are quite significant annually. So these are the three successful projects, and we have around 15 projects which is in first stage or either in second stage. We have 3 stages. The third stage is the completion stage, but most of the other 15 projects are in first stage and also the second stage, which is the first stage is the processing stage, and the second stage is the implementation stage. So hopefully by end of this year, we can manage to get all the 15 companies to finish up to third stage, and we can share more success story, so that this fund will be more attractive to the SMEs, to uptake this program. Because the issue with this program is we need to do more and more promotion to the SMEs. They are the one who really needs to participate in this program. The big boys, we are not to worry with them, because they have their own funding and they are fully automated. Maybe in some parts of the process, they need to, they are still using manual labor. But the SMEs, they are currently still the labor-intensive production system. So we need them to participate. So from our part, we are creating more and more promotion activities for this funding. We are creating the success story using our 3 successful projects, so that this video can be shared to the industry, to the societies, MAGMA, NPRA, and so on. And as well as we are planning to organize webinars and briefing session to the industry. We initially planned a Raya gathering with the industry, actually, but due to the MCO, we have to postpone. And hopefully after this MCO, we can have an engagement session with them to identify. What we plan to do is we need the society, their society, the NPRMA, the MAGMA, and so on, to involve with us to help these SMEs to identify which part of your process in your production system is still have room to improve in terms of automation, and also the green technology, as well as with our Malaysian Rubber Board, which definitely can assist us, to promote this FAGT and to help and assist the industry to identify relevant technology which can be, utilized or introduced in their production system. As mentioned by Datuk Zairus just now, the automation in each industry differs. So they have specific machines, they have specific technologies, and to complement that, Dr. Tang, we are also providing the as I mentioned, industrial linkage fund and as well as the T+1I fund, so that the research group, the research community can participate with with the cooperation from this industry to identify. Sometimes the technology, the automation system is not there in the industry. So our research group can come up with new technology or enhance existing technology, so that our main important aspect is, our main important target is to enhance the productivity of our rubber industry, especially the downstream and the midstream. Thank you, Dr. Tan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nurul. That's very interesting because, SMEs are definitely needing a little bit push and pull factor in that sense. So we have a question from the audience, right? They've actually asked, Dato, you mentioned about specialty products and also moving to the next value chain. And Mr. Nurul, you mentioned about SMEs going to the next sector beyond rubber gloves. Can I have both your viewpoints on what is next? Can you further elaborate on what are these specialty rubber or customized rubber products, and also how are SMEs, what are the niche areas that SMEs should actually look into for this, besides just rubber gloves? Thank you.
Okay, all right. So maybe I'll just give some specific examples. Yeah. So, for example, in our case, we have the standard Malaysian rubber. So this is what we call the commodity rubber. So what we are trying to do is to enhance the properties of rubber through chemical and physical processes. So with these processes, the rubber will have specific advantages and properties. Yeah. So, for example, we're looking at the natural rubber. So there are a few specialist rubbers that we develop. For example, we call that deprotonized natural rubber, epoxidized natural rubber. So why we do this is to enhance the properties. So, for example, in the development of epoxidized natural rubber, so one of the ways is to ensure that the rubber is able to replace some of the properties of synthetic rubber. Right. So, for example, now with the epoxidized natural rubber, you can technically replace some of the rubber in some rubber product manufacturing. For example, in tire manufacturing, right? In tire manufacturing, is normally for a certain type of tire, you need combination of both synthetic and natural rubber, because natural rubber is inherent disadvantages. But by having this specialty rubber, we overcome that. So you can use more natural rubber in that product. Yeah. So this is where we introduce what we call the green rubber products. Yeah. So with this green new rubber, you can produce this product with less consumption of synthetic rubber, and also we use less toxic or what we call hazardous chemicals. We introduce more what we call green chemicals or compounding materials. Yeah. So in essence, this specialty materials is for niche application, for specific, and we're targeting for high value added and also for green rubber products. Looking at, for example, the glove. Yeah. So glove, traditionally we use latex, the normal latex. But what happens if we modify the latex and we add certain material, for example, nano material? So now the rubber become what we call advanced composite. So with this, what do we do? Yeah, we can produce new properties from our glove. For example, now, we can produce what we call one of the issues with natural rubber glove is the oil resistivity. Yeah, so we can tackle that. And also, as you know, one of the issues with gloves is that it's too dependent on the raw material. About 60% of the cost of production of gloves is from raw material. So what can we do in terms of processing and also material to use that? Yeah. So what we are trying to do is to look at technologies, yeah, to manufacture the glove and to do all the compounding so that you can produce thinner glove, but not only thinner, but it can match the properties of the conventional gloves. So these are some of the areas that we are looking at here to value add and also to differentiate the product in terms of technical specification and also quality. So that is for the the product sector that you're looking at now, the areas that we're looking at. For example, the other area that we are emphasizing is on the in the technical rubber products in terms of what we call the industrial rubber goods. Yeah. So, for example, automotive components, yeah, hoses, even in tires themselves. Yeah. So we are looking at new material development. So this will give us additional advantage in terms of applications and product differentiation. So in a way that help to sustain, yeah, our production of new rubber products and in a way contribute more to our export.
Thank you, Dato, for your explanation. Mr. Nurul, just a very quick one in terms of how are your SMEs moving towards the next area, and what are these next areas for them?
All right, thank you, Dr. Tan. As I mentioned, dry rubber sector, most of them are SMEs. They are really domestic focused SMEs. So what we are planning to do for them is two parts. One is domestic, to increase the domestic market, and also the next one is the international market. For the domestic market, what we are doing is we are focusing on the government projects, assisting them to get government projects, and also in terms of infra construction projects and tire and automotive. By doing that, we hopefully their market share in domestic market can be increased. Apart from that, as I mentioned, we have this smart Pathfinder program. You see, this Pathfinder program is for us to nurture these SMEs, which most of them are dry rubber sector. With this program, hopefully they can penetrate more and to the international market. Apart from that, also we have this business matching, where we look at the requirement from the buyers in international market, and through our regional office. We have 5 regional office, and this regional office will get the requirement from the customers, potential customers in the overseas, and they will pass it to us, which we will communicate with the industries, the SMEs, what are the requirements. I'll give you an example, a quick one. In India, we have a regional office in India. So in India, 10% of their population is more than Malaysia population. So in India, mostly the toys are, these substandard toys, which is from China. So if we can target to export to this 10%, which looking into high standard, safe rubber toys, which if this can be done through our regional office, we can find a local rubber toys producer or toy producer, and we can talk to them. We have this market in India, 10% market in India, for you to supply rubber toys, safe rubber toys. Do you interested? If they are interested, we will guide them. We will guide them as we have the fundings. We can using our Pathfinder program, we will assist them from the production until the final stage, which is the export of their products. So this is what we are looking into through our regional office to help and assist these SMEs, which is mostly the dry rubber sector. Thank you, Dr. Tan.
Thank you so much. So we have another question for PK Chan. They have asked, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM EU, has recently extended this climate change initiative to the rest of the world by putting a price on imports to reflect the carbon embedded in them. So please advise how our manufacturers who exports to EU to cope with such enforcement, which I understand will take effect in 2023. Dato', if you'd like to take this first, or Mr. Nurul, I'll leave it to both of you.
Okay, so this is the first part of what we call the initiative, yeah, for what we call the zero carbon manufacturing, low carbon manufacturing. Actually, for the rubber industry, we have to look at the supply chain, yeah. For the, for example, the carbon, yeah. Well, this is very much related to the carbon footprint. So we have to show in our manufacturing the impact of our manufacturing and our product on the carbon emission. So we have to work with the supplier, yeah. So we need the supplier to have what we call the carbon footprint analysis, yeah. And then for the processing, they have to also carry on the carbon footprint analysis until the production. So throughout the supply chain, we must be able to account or to calculate the carbon impact on our processing. So we have started this initiative for our processing sector. The process sector now we have initial estimates of the carbon footprint. It's just that now with the requirement now, there's a need for us to expedite that to work with the manufacturers, the downstream sector, to complete the carbon footprint analysis. Yeah, it's just that our issues that in Malaysia, because for example, for our glove sector, yeah, the glove is using more than 90% of imported raw material. So for us to get the information on the carbon footprint, probably is quite challenging. But for local, we can reach for that. So we can process for the carbon footprint analysis. It's just that now, maybe at initial stage, we will identify the boundaries for our carbon emission calculation. So for now, what we can do conveniently is at the processing sector and also the downstream sector. So that is on the carbon footprint. But in addition to that, yeah, there are various ways to reduce the carbon impact on the product or technology or services. So this is where the use of renewable energy. So you must find ways to convert or to use as much as possible renewable energy, and then do energy auditing to reduce energy consumption. Yeah. So by reducing energy, you reduce automatically the carbon footprint as well as the waste. Yeah. So you must find ways to reduce your waste. So this is where waste reduction, lean manufacturing, as well as what we call the recycling of waste, yeah, is important. So one of the direct approach is to do the carbon accounting, but it also involves the overall manufacturing approach.
Thank you, Dato'. Mr. Nurul, your thoughts on this EU move? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. I think it's pretty much explained by Dr. Zairosani on the carbon border adjustment mechanism by the EU. This mechanism, which is effective on 2023, which imposes a carbon price on import from certain goods, we are currently working with our Europe office, to look into this issue and to get more details on this new regulation. And after we get more information on this, we will be working on to assist our industry in order to be ready for this mechanism, which will be imposed in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our panelists today. As we are nearing the end, I would just love to hear from you all. Based on our title today, advancing our road to recovery, advancing the rubber industry, what's next? I would love to hear your aspirations, your personal aspirations for the rubber industry for the next, just say, 5 to 10 years. What do you see?
Yeah. I have a strong belief. Maybe I can start. I have a strong belief in rubber industry. Rubber industry will stay, and it will still be one of the pillar of rubber, our economy in the future. It's just that how do we nurture this industry? Yeah, work together and optimize the resources. The industry will be here to stay.
Thank you, Dato'. Mr. Nurul?
And thank you, Dr. Tan. My personal aspiration towards this rubber industry is that we wanted to see more and more SMEs to be creating more values in their industries. And also, we wanted to see the increase in usage of our locally produced rubber materials, and also the commercialization of our research, whether it is MRBs or our own research, ILF research. So this will help to increase the usage of natural rubber, locally produced natural rubber, and to reduce the dependency in the import of raw materials from overseas. So with that, as mentioned by Dr. Zairosani, we also believe in this rubber industry and for the future of our next generation and also for the country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nurul. Okay, as we end, I would just like to say a very big thank you and appreciation from Mike and everybody else today that's attended to not just Dr. Zairosani and Mr. Nurul Islam, but also the team behind Malaysia Rubber Board and Malaysia Rubber Council. We wish all of you all the best in your endeavors. You know, from me as a moderator, when I listen to our panelists today, it appears to be a bright future for not just the rubber industry, the big players, but also the small players. You know, as there is a very good support system, as there is very clear targets and leadership that has been presented by our panelists today. The fact that we want to move to diversify rubber, not just in terms of higher quality, not just be known as high quality, but also to be sustainable, as we know that our trends of the market is moving there. We also want to be more internationally recognized. I think rubber industry is one of those industries that Malaysia can be proud to be called as a leader. And also we are talking about the evolution towards automation of the processes, diversifying our sectors, particularly into dry rubber products, and of course bringing together our SMEs and small producers, making sure that no one is left behind in this shared prosperity vision that we have towards advancing the rubber industry. So final words from me is thank you very much again to our panelists. Thank you everyone for attending today and listening to this 1.5 hour discussion. I look forward to our next discussion in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Tan.
Thank you, Mr. Nurisam. Thank you, Dato.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.